Hey everyone, welcome back. My name is Rachel Gonzalez. I am a recovering perfectionist, just trying to become more like Jesus and live in God's perfect will for my life. Today is my last day of summer, my last day of my kids being in daycare, and so I'm really living it up to the fullest. Decided to pop on here and make a video today because in a couple of days it's going to be the last day of June, and so I thought right now would be a good time to review my goals for the year. And so that's what I'm going to be talking about today, is just what my goals for the year were starting in January, where I was at when I did the review. I think it was in April. And then talking about now kind of like revamping my goals for the rest of the year because they are all over the place. So my specific New Year's resolution for 2024 was to speak only kind words over my kids and my spouse. And I can tell you right now that has not been happening. So, still working on that. And so I do want to address that specifically today because I think that it really matters. The words that we speak matter, and I know that, and that's why I made this goal for myself for the year, is because I think at the beginning of this year specifically, I was really like frustrated with my middle child, who I'm still frustrated with, because at the time he was having a really hard time with just I think he was having a really hard time with this, with getting a sister, right? So, he was a middle child for a long time because he had, a baby in my belly growing, and then that baby was born and didn't come home. And so even though he was very young at the time that it happened, I think when Cooper passed away, Brady was like not even 1.5. So I got pregnant with Cooper when Brady was about 11 months. And so he was probably like 16 months at the time that Cooper passed. So, that's really hard because, at that time, like he became a middle child, and he acted like a middle child for a very long time. And then I got pregnant again. And again, he needed a lot of attention. I mean, he was a 2-year-old, so he really needed a lot of attention. And then on the day of his 3rd birthday, he got a sister, which to us were like, happy birthday, how exciting, and he loves his baby sister, but he also like was the baby, and now he's not, and so I think he was just having a lot of trouble at the time. And so that's really where this goal came from, was because I was speaking a lot of negativity about him to others and over him, like, you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing and this and that, and, kind of getting on to him and stuff. And I felt very guilty about it. I was very convicted. I felt like, I'm not supposed to be speaking this way about or to my children. And it was hard because he was doing things that he shouldn't have been doing. Like, things that he was getting in trouble for at school, like made me want to pull him out of school because I was like, this is unacceptable behavior. So that was very difficult. And obviously I brought my spouse into that because my husband is a wonderful husband and a wonderful father, and I think that he deserves all the credit in the world for that, especially because like I have a lot of friends whose partners are not as involved as he is, or as caring and helpful. However, it's easy to blame somebody else for things that are going on within our household. And it is also easy to take out your frustrations on the closest person to you, which to me is my husband. And so, I've been wanting to change that. I think that, one of the things that I try to do, but is very inconsistent, is praying for my marriage and for the way that I speak. And when I'm very intentional about it, things go a lot better. And when I'm not intentional about it and I'm not praying about it, things really fall apart. And the inconsistency, I think, has been it's causing a lack So I'm going to continue to try to do this. I am going to try to get better at this, especially with my kids coming home to be with me, because if I want them to be here with me to um, have a different life than what we have been living, then I need to be a better role model. Which, if you know anything about having kids, if you have children, you know that they are the best person to teach you how to change. Because when you are like, hey, we don't talk like that, and they're like, well, I heard that from you, then you're like, oh yeah, you did, and I need to change the way that I speak if I expect you to change the way that you speak, right? And so for me, my children are a mirror, and they will tell me like, hey mom, you just said a bad word. You're right, I did. I shouldn't have said that, and I'm really sorry. And I model what that looks like. Um, Sometimes it's harder than others, where it's like, well, yeah, I wouldn't have said that if you weren't making me so mad right now. And then I go back to them and I say, earlier I said that you were making me mad. And that was my choice to be mad. And I just want you to know that it was not your fault that I was mad and saying bad things. I should have controlled myself because I should be able to do that. I'm an adult. And so, I just kind of try to model that as well. Like, yeah, sometimes we have a bad day and we take it out on people and it is not okay. So like I said, I'm going to continue trying to do this. The most applicable thing I can do, I think, is to pray about this daily. So I'm going to add it to my prayer list. I've been trying to wake up every morning at 5 and get right on my Bible app, because previously when I was pumping, that's what I would do. I would get up, I would pump, and while I was pumping, I would do my devotional and be in my Bible app and do all of my prayers and stuff then. Well, I'm not pumping anymore, and so there's no reason really for me to like get up other than the fact that I want to read my Bible and work out before my kids wake up. So that's what I've been trying to do, is like wake up, get right on the Bible, do that first thing before anything else, set my intentions for the day. And so I'm going to make sure that every day I am praying over the words that I am speaking to and about my family. So I'm going to continue to try to do that. The other things on my list, and I can't remember, I think, I've talked about some of them in some videos and things like that, but I'm just going to go through the list and I'm going to just say like how I'm doing on each one and one step I'm going to take to continue or modify the goal. So our first goal for the year was to sell our house for the price that we had listed. And obviously that is not going to happen because we have now taken it off the market. However, I do think that this is still a goal for within the next year, is to try to continue trying to sell our house after our renters, what the contract with the renters is up. We're not going to sell it for what we listed it for probably. But there is still a number that I have that like I will not go below. And I'm hoping that we can at least get that. Otherwise, we're probably just going to continue renting it for the foreseeable future until we're able to hit that mark. That goal ties directly into another one of my goals, which is further down the list, but it is to become debt free. And my husband and I are struggling with that, to say the least, because when I got my principal certification, or like right before, like when I was starting to get into the program and I knew that that's the route that I was going to go, my husband and I both bought new cars. And now I understand that that was a silly choice to make because, that's a lot of car payment when we had no car payments previously. However, at the time I was, we have always been planning to have more children. And when I was pregnant with Cooper, we were already on the search for the van that I ended up buying. And since we were already on that track, like we continued to go for it. The car that my husband bought was, his car was pretty old at the time. And when I say old, it was like 7 years old. But, around that time is when things started to get shaky. We were putting more work into it. He had a truck and we felt like he didn't really need a truck anymore. We kind of disagree with that decision now, but again, we wanted to be able to fit more children into a car, so he ended up getting a new car as well. And so we have two car payments, and obviously now we have two house payments, which one is being paid by renters, so that's very helpful for us. But other than that, we don't have a ton of debt. We do have a couple of like 0% credit cards, or like our credit card that we use, that we pay off every month. Like we have that, but other than that, we don't really have a ton of debt. And so like I was hopeful that if we sold our house, we would be able to become debt free by using the sale of our home to do that. But now with me not having a job and with us not selling the house, I don't think that that is going to happen this year, unless we were to really tighten the reins. And now we could do that, and we still can. And I think that when we get back from our trip to Chicago, we might revisit that, and like what that's going to look like. But it's really difficult to go from where we were as like a two income household where we could afford all of our bills and the things that we like to do also, and like traveling and all that. It's hard to go from that to like not spending money at all. And I go back and forth between like, oh my gosh, I'm so stressed out about money and, what we're spending. And then like also, but we need these things, or like these things would be really great to have for homeschooling or for, the kids or whatever. So it's hard to just like stop living a lifestyle that we have lived. Even just last week, we were like, let's plan a trip to Disney. And I'm like, we don't have money for that, but we still want to do it because we love traveling, and we love, like we want to be able to enjoy the life we have, even if it costs money. So you'll be probably seeing a lot of that back and forth throughout the rest of this year on how we're like trying to save money, but also spending money. And I think to some people, like probably vacation would seem very frivolous. They'd be like, wow, I can't believe you're, going to Disney World when you have bills or, XYZ. But for us, experiences are super important for us. We want to be experiencing life. We want to be doing fun things. And we don't just want to like have to sit at home, even though sitting at home, it can be great too. So, we're going to have to try to balance that. And another thing is with food, like as two working parents, like we would kind of eat out often, especially during busy seasons, like sports seasons, t-ball, things like that. We would eat out kind of a lot. And then it got to a point where it was like, we can't keep eating out all the time. One, because it's not healthy for us, but two, because it costs a lot of money. And so what I would do is I would like start like making sandwiches to take with us to eat over there and stuff. And then they kind of got sick of sandwiches, but just trying to like find ways to save money, and also like nourish our bodies appropriately and stuff. So hopefully after like, so for these two goals, selling our house and becoming debt free, hopefully those two things will go hand in hand. If not this year, probably not this year, next year, when we are able to put our house back on the market after our renters move out. My next goal in my, I wrote them in my Bible, so it's here in my Bible that I wrote for 2024, is to make a group of Christian mom friends, in the neighborhood where we live. But I haven't necessarily done that yet, but I have made a group of Christian mom friends, and I'm so excited because, if you watched my video on moving, you probably know that I was not like super excited about this house specifically. Like, I talk about in that video that the house that we lived in was just exponentially better. But the reason that we moved, the main reason, it was not for money, because our house over there, our payment is actually cheaper because of interest rates. And it would have been easier probably to stay there monetarily, but we moved for location because with me staying home, we needed to be closer to things and people, like so that we can get out and do things, because previously we lived in the country. And so living in the country means that it was a 30-minute drive for us just to get to church, for us to get to any kind of park or, whatever. So we moved really for location, and if you know anything about my husband and I, we have never cared about location previously. Like, we did not mind living in the country because I personally didn't mind driving. You can ask my friends like who live in Austin and all of the surrounding areas. Like, I would drive any day of the week, any time of day to see my friends, to see their kids, to get together. But it's very different when you have children, especially children like mine who are on a schedule. And, with more kids being added to our family, I know that the schedules are going to go out the window at some point. But right now, like, we really do try to protect like nap times and things like that because that protects our nighttime sleep. And to me, nighttime sleep is extremely important. And so, for us to move here, it was so that we could get into community. And with moving here, I have already gotten to solidify some friendships from our church, which is now 6 minutes from our home. So they are like-minded, share a lot of the same values as our family. And that is also important. Just came to find out also that they are mostly homeschooling families as well. So we have that connection now. And that is really exciting for us because that's exactly why we moved. That is what we moved for. And so I am doing a lot of work these couple of weeks while my kids were still in daycare. Like today, I literally went to the park to meet up with some of those moms and their kids to get to know them and, make a connection. And so that way, when I'm home with my children, like I know that I have people to meet up with and people to see. And that's exciting for me. And so I'm definitely already making progress on this. I did just join a couple of Facebook pages within our neighborhood that hopefully I will be able to like make connections with people here in the neighborhood. I know that there are children on our street. We just haven't gotten out to meet them. To be honest, it is so hot here, like, 100 degrees every single day, that we're not really like playing outside in the front yard just yet because it's just so hot and nobody's out there. I mean, nobody wants to be on the blacktop in 100-degree heat with no shade. So, we haven't really met anybody on our street yet, but I know that there are kids here. They do exist. And so I'm excited to meet them. The difference is between meeting people at church and meeting people on my street is that, like, this goal specifically was to meet Christian mom group friends. And that is because I want them to have similar values to us. And so the people who live on our street and things like that will probably, I mean, some of them may have the same views as us, but some may not. And that's okay too, obviously. But this specific goal was like for Christian mom friends. And I know that I'm getting that through our church. And then also once our co-op starts in the fall, which is a Christian co-op, that will help as well because I'll have that community. So I'm really excited about that starting, and I can't wait to start about that or talk about that later on. The next one is begin homeschooling, which we are going to do starting in August. So today, it's the end of June, and we are about to drive to Chicago to go visit my friends and family there. And so when we go, we're going to be gone for 3 weeks, and then we will drive back. And once we get back, I have I was thinking like probably like 10 days that I'm going to use to really get my curriculum together, get everything set up, and then start homeschooling. And so that'll be kind of like the end of the kids' summer. And then I am going to begin homeschooling, and it is final now because I have quit my job. And so this goal is already underway. And I think by the time that I make another video on this, which will probably be like September, we should have already started, and I can let you know how it's going then. But I do have some things I didn't end up getting like a curriculum. I'm just going to kind of piecemeal it together. I didn't want to do that. I was like, I really don't want to have to like pull things or whatever. But I never found something that I was 100% like gung ho about. And the ones that I really liked were super expensive. And I feel like it's just unnecessary for me to pay, $900 for a year's worth of curriculum. I just don't really want to do that. So I will let you also know how that goes when that is underway. So my next goal was to start and maintain a YouTube channel, posting one video per week. I've done half of that. I have maintained this YouTube channel, and I did start it, so I got that part done. I am maintaining it, but I am not posting one video per week. I am still trying to hit that mark, but I am just, it's impossible for me to say that I'm going to do it every single week because I don't know what the rest of this year is going to look like. This past week I got sick and then my son got sick, and I had planned to make videos a couple of days so that way I could have stuff, pre-prepared. And it didn't happen because I couldn't. Like, I was sick and then my son was sick. And so, and I feel like we're sick a lot. I just don't understand. Like, I mean, obviously they go to daycare and I worked in a school, so like it makes sense. But like now it's summer and I'm not even working, and I don't know where I got sick, but I feel like do get sick a lot. So maybe that needs to be one of my goals, is like stop getting sick. Um, the last one on here is such a silly goal, and I talked about this before, but it was to buy a new cell phone, and I have not done that yet. Well, my friend gave me her old, like an old cell phone, or like one that they never used. That's an iPhone 10, and I'm really excited because it's obviously better than an iPhone 8, which is such, I mean, I'm just so sick of it. I have no service. I can't call people from my home. Which I think part of that is because like this is a new subdivision, but also it's just like my cell phone is the worst. Like my husband can make phone calls from here, so I don't know. My phone is just, it's on the fritz, and it now I can't take photos. So like when I pull up the phone or the camera, I can only take photos from the front because the back, it like starts like squiggling. I don't know. I don't know what's wrong with it, but I need to get a new phone. And so what I've been doing, my practical step for this has been I am taking pictures off of my phone and putting them onto flash drives. And there are 30,000 photos on this phone. So it's taking me a very long time. And then also because sometimes it'll be transferring and then it'll be like error. So then I have to start over, even though I might have been doing that for 15 minutes. And then it's like, okay, well, now I have to go back. And sometimes I have to do it like one by one. So I'm just doing a little bit each day. I'm trying to, spend like 20 minutes to an hour every single day transferring photos off of my phone onto the flash drive. So that way I can hopefully by the end of this month be using a new cell phone. And that would be so great. So those are all my goals for this year. I think that I'm in a better headspace about my goals now than I was, 3 months ago. I think 3 months ago I was like pretty defeated about my goals. And now I'm like, okay, I feel like we're making progress on these things, especially because I have already quit my job, that we have a renter. So there are things that are moving. And then I just need to be intentional and in prayer about my words and the way that I speak about and to my family. So those are the things I'm going to be doing. I have a scripture that keeps coming up in my mind because I keep thinking like, God, I followed your call, right? I quit my job. We moved. Like all of these things that I felt called to do, we have done now. Okay. We're on the backside of that. We've followed the call. And I feel like, especially within the past week, like I feel like our household has just been under attack. And there have been many weeks and moments within this year that I have felt that way. However, we also know that when we are making strides closer to God, those attacks become frequent and more intense. And so I do feel like that has been happening. And there is a scripture from Jeremiah 29 that says, it's like, for I know the plans that I have for you, plans to prosper you, not to harm you, and I'm going to read it here. But there is a part that I feel like doesn't really get read as much. And so like this kept coming into my mind. It's like, I know the plans I have for you, plans to prosper you, not to harm you. And it like, I keep reminding myself that like God's plans are not to like, they're not for harm. And so, for me, I just keep repeating that to say, like, even if it feels really hard right now and it feels like the enemy is attacking, it feels like the enemy is winning sometimes, that is not the plan. The plan is not harm. The plan is prosper and goodness. And so I'm going to read this scripture. It's from Jeremiah 29, and I'm going to start at verse 10. So it says, "For this is what the Lord says, when 70 years for Babylon are complete, I will attend to you and will confirm my promise concerning you to restore you to this place." Okay. "For I know the plans I have for you. This is the Lord's declaration. Plans for your well-being, not for disaster, to give you a future and a hope." That's a little bit different wording, but it all is the same thing. "You will call to me and come and pray to me, and I will listen to you. You will seek me and find me when you search for me with all your heart. I will be found by you. This is the Lord's declaration, and I will restore your fortunes and gather you from all the nations and places where I banished you. This is the Lord's declaration. I will restore you to the place from which I deported you." So, this verse, I feel like, is very frequently used. "For I know the plans I have for you, prosper, not to harm you, plans for good," right? This one says for your well-being, not for disaster, to give you a future and a hope. Boom. However, it goes on to read, "You will call to me. You will come pray to me. I will listen to you, but you will seek and find me when you search with all your heart." And that, I think, is a piece that is often forgotten or not even read at all. And for me, reading this, like when I kept thinking about it and having that thought in my mind, that scripture kept coming up for me during this season when I feel like I'm being attacked. I went and read it, and I was like, wow, it says, the part that you have to do is you have to seek me with all your heart. And I think that that's the part that I'm lacking, is that, yes, I am doing a quiet time in the morning. I'm reading my Bible. There have been very few days this year that I have missed. And in the Bible app, it'll tell you, like, this is how many days in a row you have been on the app. And then it'll tell you, like, how many days you've been in the app outside of, like, the streak that you have or whatever. And so there have been very few days, like maybe 5, that I have missed reading it. However, sometimes it's a checkbox for me, right? It's like, okay, I woke up, I read my Bible, and I'm moving on. But that's not what God's asking of me. God is saying, like, I need you to seek me and find me with your whole heart, not just part of it. And so, he's saying, like, get in the word, seek me, you will find. And so, that is the thing that I am moving forward going to do. That is my biggest action step, which is get into the word, read about how my words affect others, read about how, ruminating on positive things and my goals and all of these things can bring forth a better future, a future of hope, a future of, prosper. And so I think that, I'm going to just start making a list of all the things that I want to pray for. This morning, I was intentionally actually praying for our future babies, babies, whatever we end up getting. And that is something that I am going to continue praying for from now until it happens, because it is something that is very important to me. And so it's the same thing with this. It's like, I am going to ask God for help. And sometimes I think that I'm afraid to ask God for help with certain things. Like, one of my biggest examples is, like, if you pray for patience, like, you are going to be given opportunities to be patient. And I think that that's why sometimes I'm scared to pray for certain things, because I don't want to be put in situations where I need to practice them. But it's going to happen because I'm going to be home with my children every single day. And so for me, I need to learn to speak kindly. This is my public declaration that I am going to stop cussing. And that's going to be very hard because I grew up in a household where cussing was just like normal. It was commonplace. It still is. And I'm about to go visit them for 3 weeks. And so I'm going to be have a lot of input in that way. But this is my public declaration. Like, I need to quit cussing because I don't want my kids cussing. I don't want my kids saying bad words. And if I don't want them doing it, I need to stop doing it. I definitely don't want to be saying bad words to my husband. I don't want to be saying them to my children. So I need to stop, and I'm going to. So I'm going to add that actually to my list of goals, is to cut out cussing. But that would be, go along with the kind words and speaking kind words to and about my family members. And so let me know how your goals are going. I mean, it's mid-year, so did you make a resolution this year? Let me know, what your resolutions were, how they're going. And if you hear me speaking ill about my family members or you hear me cussing, please call me out on it, because I can guarantee you it's not going to change overnight. It hasn't in the last 6 months. I've been working on these things. And so I think the rest of the year I'm going to continue to have to work really hard at it. And I'm going to undo 33 years of bad habits. So thank you so much for watching. Make sure that you subscribe to my channel. You can also find me at Life with Perfect Imperfections on Instagram, or email me at perfectimperfections901@gmail.com. Thanks.